Where did you get that?
Join audio to start speaking.
No.
No. Okay.
Otherwise we'll have a big.
All right. I think we're just about ready to go. Are we, Char?
Ready to go.
Hey, you sure?
Well, okay, David, you gotta move next to me.
Alleged Mermaid,
I don't think it's
Eric
possible.
Hanebury,
There you are.
is a Alberni writer of poetry, fiction, and creative nonfiction, who taught writing here at North Island College for many years. His latest books, Both Sides Now, is a collaboration of short fiction with two of his past students. His solo collection, entitled Something Else, is now out.
Thank you, Karl, and good evening and welcome everybody to the first Electric Mermaid of 2023.
Yay!
Fabulous to see lots of people with us
I gotta
online
read
again
this.
tonight, and a good crowd here live at Char's Landing as well. So we got lots of open micers lined up, 14 of you, and well, one of those actually is our featured reader, Jen. But lots of diversity here, and we might even get one more if we can twist his arm a little bit later after he listens for a bit. So just a reminder of what we are, Electric Mermaid. You know, we're kind of an ad hoc group of people who just love spoken words, whether they're prose or poetry or rap or put to music, as Mark's going to do a little bit later here, I believe. Is that right? I don't see him there. But anyway, and we are a welcoming group here that, you know, we just accept anybody who wants to share the stuff they're working on. It's a place to test out your rough drafts if you want, or share your polished work. We don't care what skill level you're at. We just hope that it's inclusive and inspiring and encourages you to keep writing. That's what it's all about. And I have to say, I look forward to this day of the month every month because, I don't know, it just feels like we have built a community here that kind of keeps growing. It fluctuates a little bit up and down, but I really hope that some of the newcomers here tonight will enjoy themselves enough to come back and tell their friends about it. Yeah. So a big shout out to Char here at Char's Landing. So we're here in Port Alberni, which is on the unceded territory of the Sishat and the Quecheseth First Nations, and we're grateful for them sharing their land with us under whatever duress it occurred historically. But they continue to share their land with us, and we're happy to be here and happy to have you all here. And I want to just say a big thank you to Karl, who is our moderator, who got everybody signed up and kept us all in track here. And a big thank you to everyone who's here tonight, making this thing happen. So let's start off with our first reader is going to be Shawna from Port Alberni, and she's live here at Char's Landing. So she's going to step up to the mic there. She shared some poetry with us in the past, some spoken word, and I imagine she's going to delight us again tonight. Take it away, Shawna.
Thank you, Derek.
Oh, can everybody hear us okay? Let's just show some nods, okay? Hands up. Anybody not, just give us a thumbs down. Everything looks okay. All right, we're good.
Okay, testing. Testing. Okay. Right there. Right. Okay, how's the sound? Good?
Perfect. Sounds good here. Sounds good out in Zoom land. We got nods. All right, Shawna, you're
Okay.
good to go.
Thank you, Derek.
Thank you.
All right, so this one, as I've touched on in the past couple of open mics that I've done, I've talked a bit about how I'm someone who's very sensitive, I feel the depths of my emotions, all of them, and just have this intensity to me. And with that comes gifts, and with that comes challenges. But there's one thing that's been for sure, something inside of me would never let anybody shut me down or try and stuff me into a box. So this one is essentially a letter to the world. And it speaks to that and a little bit more. I hope you enjoy. Dear world, normal human struggle does not equal mental illness. Normal human struggle means just that. Normal human struggle. Struggles which may in different ways cause a rift, yet struggles are always a great blessing and a divine gift. For when we struggle, we expand, and when we expand, we awaken to the powerful being that we am. Yet when we buy into your falsity of what normal is or isn't, we so often shrivel into that which we are not, compressed, depressed, and powerless, or so we feel. Powerless to a world that attempts to tell us who we are, the moments when we have forgotten the great soul that we are. We each have the right to be on this earth and need do nothing to prove our value and worth. We came down to this world because we heard the call, stand tall, share your gifts beyond your flesh-made wall. Sensitivity, intuition, emotion, love. The kind of love that worlds are made of, which comes straight from within, not from above. The love we remember because of our walk through fear. The love we remember because of our walk through pain. The love we remember because of our walk through contrast. A gift to help us remember. That's what struggle is. Don't squash the cocoon. Just give us each a little time while we grow in our cocoon before you convince us we are meant to crawl on this earth with little self-worth. Oh no, we are meant to fly. So give us back our wings and quit perpetuating the lie. The world is here to be our teacher. A teacher who is meant to shape the student, not squash the student. A teacher who is meant to raise the student, not dim the student. A teacher who is meant to grow the student, not suppress the student. So move on over with your little minds and presumptions, because I am done with your labels and assumptions, the man-made, fear-made, conditional little labels. Labels that will never replace the one and only label that matters. Magnificent human being, no matter what. And no, I'm not going to shut up because I'm just getting started as I learn to speak up. So yes, I speak for those who this world has tried to make believe and tried to convince and tried to label into believing that they are flawed and broken. They aren't flawed and broken. We aren't flawed and broken. We are strong and sensitive and willing to feel. Strong and sensitive and willing to rage for our birthright. Strong and sensitive and willing to rise up through the cage of fear, your fear, which created the little labels. Little minds will do that. And we are way beyond the little. And so let me tell you something, world. Those who struggle quietly or openly are the great lights of the world, here to help the world wake up. And that often needs a little bit of emotional shaking up. The only way to get rid of an outdated system of boxing people up. For in boxing people up, you attempt to shut people down and shut people up by design. But no matter what you do, we are on to you. You will never stop the great rising, no matter what you do. Only fuel someone like me, who has always been able to see right through you. Yours truly, a magnificent human being. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Shawna. Always great to have you launch us off with your inspirational words, and you didn't fail to please tonight as well. Thank you. That was awesome.
Thank you.
All right, our next reader is on the Sunshine Coast there, David Kipling. And David's story from December, I don't know if you remember, but I certainly haven't forgot about it. It's with, David writing a letter to Goliath, manufacturing a shill that they're setting up together to have him fall down when David wings him with a piece of plasticine. So it was brilliant, David, and I wanted to ask you where you got the idea for that before you share what you're going to read tonight. Oh, you're muted there, David. David, you're muted.
Sorry.
Oh, Christ.
There we go. Oh, you're good.
Anyway, I enjoy dialogue, and I think, you know, dialogue carries dialogue says everything about the person. So I thought, well, why can't David talk to Goliath? I don't know. This is a little different. I've now got cataracts and it's been fixed. I can't see anything. I mean, I can drive, I can see the horizon, I can see stars, but I can't see what's in front of me. So for the time being, here we go. Okay. Luther's eyes cut down the rabble like a scythe through weeds for the third time this breakfast shift. Weeds that gobble and grow, reveling in their full breakfast included. Hot chocolate, however, is an extra, not in the deal. No, sir, no, madam. Tea and coffee are complimentary, but the hot chocolate is an extra. You may pay cash or add it to your room bill, you cheapskate, fat-faced, rat-faced, aftershave bastard tourists. And he pulled his knife from their chests with an obsequious smile and swept off to attack an abandoned table. Dignity, despite the cream cheese and blobs of jam sticking between his fingers, military steadfastness maintained while their half-eaten melon slices wet his hands and their brat's orange juice gummed the placemat to the table, but always in control, in command. The table cleaned, torched, stripped of filth in efficient and methodical moves. So, Bremen may be North Germany's scruffiest port, but the restaurant in the Maritime Hotel, thanks to Luther, rises above the grime. Luther glanced sideways at the mirrored wall. His apron ties at the small of his back were superb. That double-knotted bow, the crowning conclusion of two smart outward tugs and a fast loop, and each free end tucked in at the waist, and only then the waistband rolled smartly over in a single flourish. Knotted firmly, not like the young idiots starting out, always overdoing it, ending up with a wrinkled shirt back. Not loose either, like the slubs with their aprons hanging off their rump like a tent. Dark blue linen, yes, navy blue actually, although this stupid manager said they were the same thing, navy and dark blue. Well, they were not the same, and Luther shrewdly decided that violence would not teach the man anything. Navy blue then, even if only Luther knew it to be so. And not cheap cotton rubbish, like in that fast food dump in Rotterdam last year before the police got Luther fired. Linen, clean linen from the blue flax fields of Linz. And Linz was damn well Germany as far as Luther was concerned. That bastard teacher who stayed in an economy room and told Luther that all Austrian flax had originated in Poland. No, sir, no sausages, but we offer bacon. Yes, sir, a chef prepares it himself. Where from? It is hotel bacon is what it is. You think perhaps we go and kill a free-range pig squealing in a sunny green meadow and cut it up just for the likes of you animals? Luther stared at the man horrified. Had he just said that? Why did these people pummel him with their questions? Where did that brutish American tour group get their identical crew cuts, bull-headed like footballers? It was a nightmare setting down their plates among their folders and cell phones and their intrusive fat wrists and thick gold watches, which one day Luther's knife whip. He heard a hard voice ordering the t-shirted men to their waiting bus. Peel out in 5, you guys, or off the deck in 10, came the command from a woman, a black woman, in a blue jumpsuit, snapping her voice from the doorway. What the hell? The group shortly rose and left as one. An elderly couple waiting to be seated touched Luther's arm. They firebombed us once, now we have them for guests for breakfast, yeah? Luther stared at the couple. You know these guests? No, chuckled the old woman, but I know soldiers when I see them, even in civvy clothes. Didn't you do your military service, young man? Luther frowned. Excuse me, I'm a little busy, and hurried to the kitchen to regain his balance. Damn army doctor made up some lie, some Mickey Mouse test score, a fairy story about my headaches, refused me. No paratroopers, no engineers, no infantry, nothing, kicked me out. Luther checked his pulse in his apron and straightened his order pad, the pen clipped neatly upright. No stains, yet good, especially given this chaos, this ravening torrent of clumsy customers and their sloppy habits. The same animals, most likely, who last night left sticky beer cans on the patio. The glitter of the cans had made Luther's back teeth ache. Luther strode out into the combat zone again, holding his breath, while he snatched and crumpled each table's debris in his talons. Carrying this filth from the battleground, he paused in horror mid-stride. A guest at the buffet was slicing an orange on Luther's lovely breadboard with a bread knife. Its mirror perfection now smeared with yellow stickiness. He had to stop it, but first he had to unload this garbage. He froze rigid in indecision, and the din of plates and voices in 1,000 languages made his head spin, and Luther swung from side to side, searching for escape. Herr Muller's calm hand was on his shoulder. Break, Luther, 10 minutes, little break for you, good man. Slumped on the locker room's plastic bench, Luther comforted himself with the thought of his secret money tin, set discreetly behind his scarf and hat, so cool, heavy, compact, half coins, half notes. In it, his tips and his cash errors mounted up reassuringly. The chef looked in. The hell you doing? Zurück an zu Arbeit. That flat Hamburg accent, Plattdeutsch, the hotel favoured them, like you do even bust tables if you're from the south. Go away, I'm on a break, you butcher, you fry cook. I'll have you fired, snapped the chef. No, you won't. Herr Muller gave me a break. Go to hell, butcher, fry cook. The chef's pig face reminded Luther of the uncle who had done that thing to him. Pig face, pig thing. After the chef disappeared, Luther reached back to weigh his lovely money tin in consolation, but it rolled emptily away from his hand. He tore the lid off and broke a fingernail. Gone, empty. He whipped back around. Now the dishwasher, France, the Easterner, Osti, with acne, was leering his lazy way into the locker room. Luther fought the shower of consonants that sprang snapping and lapping at his ears. Luther, baby, I hear you've been fired. Bad language, bad boy. The hell I have, you liar. I'm on a break. Herr Muller gave me a break. Head break, yeah. Breakdown, break, more like you, head case, nut case. The customers are complaining. Luther stared at Franz, Friedrich, whatever the hell his goddamn name was. Frazzle, dazzle, damn dancing demons, thief too, thieving pig, my money, my tin. And now Hugo Muller himself trotted in on his trotter, scattering straw and shit and gold coins across the floor and snorting hot sweat from his uncle pig snout. And Luther bared his teeth and charged, bellowing. The end. Sorry if that frightened anyone.
That was fabulous. Now there is a character to remember. Absolutely, we'll never forget Luther.
Oh my
I
God.
think I might have a nightmare about him tonight. He's terrifying. That was,
I saw him once.
yeah.
Yeah, from a long, long time ago in North Vancouver in a White Spot restaurant.
Uh-huh.
But I've always been interested in I've worked in a restaurant, but I've always been interested in
Yeah.
the workers in restaurants.
Yes, it's a whole different population. Absolutely. Yeah, very unique. I spent my my youth in a few restaurants too, as a busboy. A little bit of dishwashing too. Yeah, very interesting. Definitely ground for fiction. All right, thank you so much, David. Kathleen, we're going to get you to hold for a bit. We're going to jump onto our featured reader tonight now. And before we go on, I should mention for those of you out there in Zoom land who might not have noticed in the chat, there is a way to e-transfer a little donation to Char at Char's Landing here to keep this event happening, to keep her establishment happening, and to reimburse her a little bit for the beautiful hosting that she does. So you can e-transfer to electricmermaidreads@gmail.com, and that's in the chat if you can see it. All right, I meant to mention that sooner, so I'm glad I remembered at least now. The aging brain. Anyway, I am so delighted to have Jennifer Wenn's here with us tonight, Jennifer Wenn, and getting to listen to her read from her new book of poetry, which I ordered from Amazon here through the silence. Beautiful book, and I've been just enjoying dipping in and out. I apologize, Jennifer. The way I read is not linear. I just kind of go to the first poem, then I go to the last one, and I go back and forth in between. But at one point, I will sit down and go end to end because I know there's sections and continuity that happens within the sections. But I just have to say how much I've been enjoying them and how wonderful they are for being able to take us into sometimes just the smallest scene, a memory from childhood, or even something that involves famous people like Walt Whitman and Claude Monet, but to take us in there in a way that gives us a perspective that we may have lost, and I think it's the poet's job, right, to make us see things freshly and to remind us of what the world was like, especially when we were small and we didn't have a lot of context and we saw something new, and how fascinated we were by it. And your poems have that power, I think, to take us into those places. So I'm really looking forward. Jennifer's coming to us from London, Ontario, and I'm going to just turn it over to you, Jennifer, for 15 minutes or so, and we'll have a Q&A time at the end there for 5 minutes.
Okay.
So if
Now, I may be more like 20 if that's okay.
That's okay. It's your night.
Okay. Thank you so much. Yes, this is the first launch of the new book. So thank you much, Electric Mermaid. What I'm going to do, almost everything is stuff I haven't done in this venue. I tried really hard to do that. And I'm just going to do a little tour through the different sections that are in it. They all have a purpose and a theme, each one. The first one is called Beginnings, and that's just about exactly what it is. First things, it's like a prologue to the whole book. And I'm going to do Whitman Monet. May I call you Walt and Claude? That's very familiar, I realize. But I feel I know you intimately after a fashion. The poet with your vocabulary, your lists, exalting the everyday, but seeing much more through and beyond, joyfully singing the body electric, claiming all humankind as brothers and sisters, dancing through time, immersing in your leaves becomes wonderful meditation. The painter, playing with light, subject says deceptively simple as a wheat stack or as vaulting as a cathedral, shades of meaning within the changing sun and fog, finding magic and insight in water lilies, claiming everything around you as worthy of adoration, falling into your impressions, a mystical experience. One, a painter with language, the other, a poet with brush and canvas, two great spirits entwined by profound vision and seductive simplicity. I claim you as muses, as ideals, not to be achieved, but perhaps approached in my own way. The second section is called Intrusion, and it deals with, in a more or less direct way, with my trans identity. And the first piece I'm going to do from this bit is called Transgender Anthem. Since time immemorial, revealed or hidden, self-aware or suppressed, we have been here. Through pain, confusion, and joy, tearing at contrary, shrouding shells, we have been here. We follow paths indescribable and incredible, yearning to shine forth our extraordinary iridescence, and we are here. We are the convention shakers, mold breakers, trailblazers, and we are here. We are not an illness or a theory or a debating point. We are flesh and blood, marvelous souls and children of the cosmos, and we are here. We are dismissed by the ignorant, stared at by the fear blind, assailed because we dare to disturb comfortable prejudices, but we are here. We are scared yet courageous, despised yet loved, weary yet striding on, and we are here. We are children and parents, siblings and spouses, friends and lovers, colleagues and neighbors, poor and well off, and we are here. Hatred fells some of us, but we remain unshakable, unbreakable, bright, blazing beacons of a new, rediscovered spirit, and we absolutely, emphatically, now and forever, will be here. I'm going to do a second one from this section, and this is called David, and this is one of those memories, and this goes back to, it goes back to high school. It was different back then, mid-70s, high school. Being labeled a gay male, fag, faggot, homo, was a mark of Cain interpreted by the mob as permission to cast out from school society, such as it was, to bully, to torment as they saw fit. David, you were labeled early, target of derision behind your back, verbally assaulted to your face, thrown into the girls' washroom, locked in a locker. But you fought back in your own way, played the fool, told rude jokes, made yourself a gadfly. And I, geeky, intellectual, Tourette twitching, I was far outside the mainstream, my then male appurtenances enclosing a sleeping identity deemed more dangerous even than yours. But desperate to avoid the mark, I said not much and did nothing. Long afterwards, my hibernating core finally awakening, seeking light and integration, searching memories, I wondered, what happened to you? Maybe a tea or a phone call, or at least an online connection. Reminisce, say I'm sorry. Turning sleuth, I found your path led to Calgary, where it seems you found community and joy too, I hope. I also discovered the sad truth. You'd passed on early one November morning, age just 33, following the obituary said, a courageous battle with HIV. Yet one more victim of that then dread plague, your loss mourned by your many friends. So no apology, at least not a conventional one. One memory I hold on to. By grade 13, the final year, you'd become something of an established fact. Some bullies had graduated, others perhaps had become bored, moved on to other targets. The senior prom coming, both of us stateless. Strict custom dictated that one couldn't go alone. So, locating a modicum of courage mixed with some the hell with them, I approached you and we went, stag as it was called, as friends. Immodestly, I take a little solace, a little pride in that. And now I could say rest in peace, but maybe something else is more appropriate. So wherever you are now, stand up, be proud, know you are missed and mourned by at least one from those difficult days of youth. And as they say, let your freak flag nobly fly, my friend. Thank you. The third section is called Triptychs, and it's a set of haiku, each done as a triplet. And the one I'm going to do, I did, a year or more ago, but the title of the book comes from this little piece. So I thought I would do this. This is 3 haiku for Visegrad, Hungary. 1. Danube's endless flow, medieval crag-mounted castle pays homage. 2. Tourists still en route, morning stillness calling out, here through the silence. 3. Stone obduracy yields, time's illusion dissolves, past caresses now. The next section is called Storm, and it's more or less a mental health is kind of the theme that runs through all of this. And the piece I'm going to do is the title poem from that section called Storm. Whether earthly or psychic, there's a rhythm to a storm. Sensitive souls feel it first in their bones, then a slight shift in the breeze rising wind on a fine day. Darkening clouds begin to gather. Far off rumble flashes in the distance. First drops, shelter sought on the run. A blinding bolt, a breath later, the first ferocious crack splitting the air, bringing sheets of rain. Streets turned to streams, howling gale whipping mighty oaks, one and all helpless before the gathering endless seeming power and fury. Then, not noticed till past, an inflection point, a fragile diminution of the deluge, a subtle brightening suffusing the air. Flash and clap separate and fade. Recovery gathers force. Kinder drafts move in. Sun reasserts herself. Birdsong heralds storm's end. In its wake, broken branches, or perhaps worse, or perhaps simply a memory at once unforgettable and unreal. The next section is called portraits, and they're pretty much that, a portrait. They're portrayals of a person, a place, or in this case, a four-legged critter. This is called Mission Impossible Squirrel Protocol, and the epigraph is with apologies to the Mission Impossible movie franchise. 2 decades ago, I plotted and planned how to give my winged friends a mammal-free feed station, near enough so we could commune, far enough for feathered comfort. Picked the spot carefully, laid pebbled paving stones to catch seedfall, encouraging four-legged creatures to stay ground-bound, extending the pole higher than leaping height. Cut back olive, the ancient oak, to eliminate overhead access. Experimented to find just the right baffle to defeat climbers. Year in and out, I gazed on smugly, birds on the feeder, squirrels and their ilk scampering on the lawn or skittering along 2 distant branches. All was right with the world. Then one day, there you were, black squirrel, lounging on the hopper and gorging contentedly on forbidden seed. Aghast, I banged the window, chased you off and wondered how. Months floated by, more sightings and bangings, knowing it was just you, my furry nemesis, your method never spotted. Come a winter afternoon, the ritual repeated, but something about your comportment caught my eye and I mounted a stakeout. Up the arbor, onto a convenient oak branch, back to the trunk, return along another limb, tiptoe onto a twig, and flung out and down an arboreal Ethan Hunt in true Mission Impossible fashion, all the plotting and planning culminating in a daring flying leap, limbs splayed, riding the air, and plop, claws gripping the feeder's snowy roof, and then hop down to indulge once again. Squirrel, I salute you. And so the key was treachery, betrayed by Olive, year in and year out, slowly extending a precarious launch pad. But why? Sympathy for your little friend? Revenge for pruning? We will have to confer. And now my choice, prune back, reestablish dominance, or accommodate your occasional triumphant forays. I will mull it over. The next section is the first of 2 fairly extended cycles. There's 17 pieces in it. It's called Bernardo Boy, and it concerns my paternal grandfather, who was a home child, a Bernardo Boy in his case, and you can read lots about them. He came to Canada ostensibly as an orphan when he was 11, indentured servant on a farm. There's been more and more about them in the past number of years. I'm going to do the very first section called Prologue, and the epigraph for the whole work is to my grandfather, Harold Mays Wenn, and the many others, whether named or not, who came into his story or my search, and to all of the other home children. Embark on a family epic, two entwined tales. One, a saga rooted in Northeast England. Two principal poles, the fishing ports of Yarmouth and farther north, Grimsby. A saga rooted in a love story in two humble working people, Albert and Molly. Albert, Grimsby fisherman close to his parents and his sons. Molly, Yarmouth housewife turned herring splitter seeking work in the north. The saga branching into a love child, my grandfather Harold, and his adoption that brought Harold to a new family and later an extraordinary voyage. That same adoption sending Albert and Molly on a separate course. The other tale is a quest for solutions to mysteries. A young teen bereft of a grandfather who had brought much humor but no family history, in search of the man lost and never truly known, asking questions not posed to him, seeking answers, some he had, many he never knew. The hunt stretching over 4 decades as I followed my own journey into middle age and across the gender divide from male to female, from Jeff to Jennifer, always looking for certainty, looking for stories, looking to morph Bernardo boy from a mark of shame to a badge of distinction, determined to honor him and the entire family, passed on and living. Two formidable strands winding and weaving together across time and space. Following that, there is a little set of things called avian odes, and they're just that. They're intended to be an ode to one particular species or perhaps individual. And all birds naturally. And this one within that set is Canada Goose. The chill, glassy mist just then dissolving into hints of sultriness, echoed with jubilant honks, avian position signaling on high, pulling my gaze up to your magnificent flying V's northward bound, flinging joyful vernal greetings. Come the ordained crisp autumn day, the calls echoed again off frosted fields as your arrow formations streamed south, bidding farewell until spring warmth once more crept in. Winter past was deep, consistent. Now it staggers all around, reeling under humanity's blows. Glistening white morphs to sulky brown mud. Defiantly open water supplants sparkling ice. Eminently flexible, a few goose homebodies spawned many more of you that seize what's on offer, spurn the effort, and trade glorious flight for ungainly waddling about and strolls through traffic, expropriating luscious manicured turf, cheerfully crapping all over your squattage, soaring nobility mutated to a gray, brown, black winged pest, herded off the cathedral greensward by a bellowing leaf blower, target practice for a skulking archer in a London park, clubbing victim of a sportsman whose putt was ruined by an inopportune answerine klaxon. Undaunted, you multiply and toddle on, once a beloved seasonal herald, now flocks of Cassandras trumpeting warnings, flaunting consequences, announcing a battle joined. Thank you. The next section is one that is, it has a lot of personal meaning for me. It's the other cycle and 17 sections in it, just as it happened to turn out. It's called Auschwitz Threnody, and it was a response to having been there in 2005. And of course, this I'm going to do the very first section, and a bit of a trigger warning. This obviously is not easy content, no matter which way you slice it. There is an epigraph for the entire cycle, which is a belated response to experiencing the Auschwitz-Birkenau Memorial and Museum. for all of the victims and survivors whose suffering and courage transcends all understanding. Ghastly residue of incomprehensible evil, a realm of petrified torment and death and sublime heroism and ghosts in staggering numbers. Every square inch, every stone, the air itself, a holy cemetery, a shrine of hallowed memory. I was there in 2005, but different then. Jeff still to the fore, Jennifer still waiting, untransitioned, my poetic feminine core shackled deep within masculine armor. So I was there, but with Jeff still my avatar, part of a tourist family shuttled around with a little clutch of strangers momentarily united in slack-jawed shock, united in variegated remembrance. I saw, I heard, yet couldn't process, not really, not then, not even for long afterwards. But part of me remained within the wire, incubating memories, listening to silence cries, gnawed by burgeoning awareness and an amorphous guilt, wondering what specters others came away with, hoping we reverenced it all, but afraid some desecration crept in. Lament by lament, a hubristic, unnerving resolution took root, given sustenance by a seismic collision. Elie Wiesel's impassioned plea, we must remember, clashing with fearsome reborn echoes of the jackboots. The call to share what belatedly I so deeply felt, to give voice to what my soul still seemed to hear, to breathe a little humanity and individuality into the vast valley of statistical bones, a tiny repayment towards an eternal ethereal debt. How does one do this? Weep in despair, howl with rage, gasp in horror, reel with nausea, cheer from the rooftops for transcendent bravery and endurance, mourn the stunning physical and psychic deaths, all that and more, the hope, the need. Now transformed to Jennifer, who can attempt the voyage, but awash in trepidation, I set out onto this monstrous ocean, latching onto specifics like a shipwrecked woman clutching for a plank. Thus held afloat, we are borne along by an irresistible, sacred riptide. Thank you. The final section is called Gossamer and Fireflies, and it's it's sort of mystical, spiritual. I mean, that's the theme that runs through it. And the piece I'm going to do from that is the, as I recall, second last one in the whole book. It's one called Ferry Crossing. Anticipated moment, finally, suddenly, here, open water, not my element, but stepping gingerly on board, a hopeful scan beyond the harbor, tipsy already with the peaceful rock and sway at anchor, exploring our vessel's few decks and lounges, and startled by an almighty blast of the horn as we ease away. Where should I write out the crossing? Perhaps inside. Others seem comfortable, but the air, still and stale, horizon obscured, floor tilting, this artificial bubble, panic seeping into all my capillaries. No, I must be outside, my own little corner on the larboard corridor where the great lake fills my senses, wind in my face, sea line present, real, sunlight ricocheting off the dancing depths, tasting the laden air as I scud along with cormorants scanning their realm for unwary sustenance. I study waves tirelessly chasing each other and sluicing off the hull, and notice they have softened slightly. Seagulls now a bit more numerous, a delicate lightening of the water's hue, a subtle shift in the prevailing tang, and look there, gently emerging through the haze, the waiting shore. I am nearly home. Thank you very much.
Beautiful. And I love, Jennifer, that you went and took something from all the different sections because we really get a feel of the breadth and the depth of this book. And that's, I think, what struck me is that, you know, you go into some pretty dark material at times, yet I never feel like I'm drowning in it because you buoy me up at the same time. Even looking at the dark materials, you find a way to buoy me up. So yeah,
Thank you.
I just love the collection. And I'm just going to throw it open quickly. We don't have a lot of time, but if anybody has a question they're burning to ask Jennifer about anything to do with that reading or her process or anything at all, just open up your mic and
Well, I could ask something. I mean, I think of all the, can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead, Kathleen.
Okay, I think of all the things you read, not just tonight, but all the other times, and there's such a breadth to it. I mean, you go, you know, all of a sudden I'm in an artwork, I'm in a painting, and another time it's a bird, or it's like the enormity of something else. I just don't know how you go cover such a breadth, you know, and none of it seems to, you know, like it's all very clearly distinct to me. I
Well,
don't know.
Thank you. It may be a touch of attention deficit. I'm not sure. I'm one of those that have to read a zillion books all simultaneously because I have to keep bouncing around amongst them. So yeah, I like the variety. Yeah, I do. And sometimes if I'm working on one of the extended things like Bernardo Boy or Auschwitz Threnody, those things take a while. Like Auschwitz Threnody, the sheer writing, forgetting the preceding, the sheer writing was probably 15 months or so to do that. And while I'm doing something like that, I work on other things in between. And I get little themes for myself, like the avian odes are fun. And yeah, thank you.
Well, I'm very grateful for your disorder. You made a tremendous order out of it.
Awesome. Diana, you've got a question. Go ahead.
Yeah, I knew Jennifer's anthem and also the poem about the Second World War. But it's great to hear the text written by the author. One of the things that struck me this time was how you were talking about the poetic Jennifer still trapped inside. Okay. And I do have a question, and I hope it's not going to come across. I hope I will be able to word it in the right kind way it's meant to be. I was wondering if transitioning have changed or no, have influenced your poetics in any ways. If you,
yes,
I made sense. I'm so happy.
You made perfect sense.
Yeah,
And it didn't change it so much as it created it. I always wanted to do something creative, but I never was able to. My degrees are all in computer science. My day job is as a senior business systems analyst at an insurance company.
Wow.
And I didn't write a poem in my life until the summer of 2017. Wow. And my transition started kind of in 2013. 2014 was a very big year for me, and as was 2016 in a medical sense. And it was only after doing that transition that I was able to write. I couldn't write. It never would have occurred to me to write poetry for the first 50 plus years of my life. Of all the things to find myself writing poetry, if you'd asked me in my 30s, that's about the dead last thing I would have thought I would have ever been doing. But once I was through my transition, then yeah, it created it. And so the image that I provide of myself is absolutely true. I feel like there was it's like having a piece of your soul locked away. I didn't have any access to it. And so I wasn't complete. And so there were things I couldn't do, and this was one of them. And of course, when you cross a gender divide in a different sense, yes, it changes your picture on the world. It truly does. I mean, like I spent, 53 years or so viewing the world through the lens of a cisgendered male. And I'm here to tell you that when you flip that upside down, it does an awful lot for your perception of things. You look at everything in a completely different way, whether it's life or books or poems or any number of other things. Yes, that's it. The transition is, for my poetics, is absolutely everything.
Thank you so much. And sorry, I won't be long. I hope you will write. This was so interesting, Jennifer. And I can only hope, if you didn't write about what you just said, please do so.
Yeah, I've got one chapter. Sorry?
Share it. I would like to read more on about everything you just mentioned. It's so interesting.
Thank you. I've got one chapbook called A Song of Milestones. If you go to my website, there's ways to get it. It follows my gender journey. It's kind of an emotional and spiritual tour of my gender journey. As far as some of the issues that I was just talking about, I have something that's percolating in the back of my mind, but it'll probably be a small book on its own, and it's going to take a couple of years to get through, I suspect. But yes, thank you for the encouragement.
I'll second that encouragement. Yeah. Thank you. That was really fabulous. We're going to have to shuffle on, but I will mention that Jennifer's website address there is in the chat, and just to encourage people, if you want to get a copy of her book or find out more about that chapbook, to go and check that out. So that was amazing and very moving, and thank you so much, Jennifer.
Thank you.
That was super. All right, Kathleen Vance is going to be our next reader, and she's coming us from the Sunshine Coast. She's pushed David off the couch, and she's taking over now.
Yes.
Oh, David's still there.
Okay. Oh, all right. This is we're back at the vegetarian boarding house. So it's the turn. I should say turn of the century, but it may not this one, the other one. Okay. Sad Sal, who was actually a happy kid, must have been waiting for Anne, Mars, and Billy to come down the stairs of her father's vegetarian boarding house, because she ran right up to them the moment they got there. A funny-looking kid, all dressed in rags, was with her. "This is my friend Lucky Lenny. He wants us to go ragamuffin with him." "Let's go," Billy shouted. "You don't even know what it is yet, Billy," Mars said. "Just grab some old stuff from the basket for the rag collector. You know, the clothes too torn or dirty to be mended or cleaned, and wear it any old how. I'll tell you the rest as we go along," Lenny told them. "We'd better ask Aunt Flossie, Anne." Mars always knew what kids were supposed to do. "My father said never to ask a question you already know the answer to." "He didn't mean this kind of asking, Anne, and you know it." "Come on, Mars. What's to worry about if we're going with a kid called Lucky Lenny?" Billy chipped in. "I forget. You don't know Lucky Lenny's secret," Sad Sal blurted. "What secret?" Anne, Mars, and Billy all asked at once. "Oh, I shouldn't have said that. You'll find out soon enough." "Billy and I are going, Mars, whether you like it or not," were Anne's last words, so Marge trudged along behind. Anne, Mars, and Billy were a pitiful sight, all dressed up in old rags that were way too big for them. Lenny showed them how to stuff their outfits with even more rags and tie rope and twine around their waists and legs so the clothes wouldn't fall off. He helped them smear their faces with mud and dirt and their eyebrows with charcoal. Anne and Billy wanted beards and mustaches too, so Mars helped them color them in. "Now what?" Billy asked Lenny. "We go up to rich people's houses, knock on their doors, and ask anything for Thanksgiving, and they give us candy, fruit, or pennies. The kids tried a few doors, but they didn't have much luck. This isn't going to work, Mars told them. I remember when my school had a raffle to raise money for a new playground. No one sold many tickets, except this one mom and her kid. They said the secret was to go to the poorer parts of town, where people are happy to give anything if it's for little kids. She said the trouble with rich people is they keep turning the money over in their hands, wanting to know what the raffle prizes are and what their odds of winning are. By the time they're finished asking all their questions, they haven't given you anything, not a red cent, or next to nothing. Hey, where have Sal and Lenny got to? Mars asked. Over there at that window. Anne pointed to a small restaurant. In the window was a sign that said Thanksgiving special, roast turkey, cranberry sauce, baked sweet potatoes, table celery, 40 cents. People were sitting at the tables inside eating, and outside, Sal, Lenny, and some other kids in rags had their faces pressed up against the glass. Come away from that window, Sal. You know your father don't want you looking at people eating no turkey, Billy shouted as he pulled her away. Anne giggled. Lenny looks just like Tiny Tim looking into the toy store window when the rich lady goes in and buys her rich little boy a big wooden toy boat. Except Lucky Lenny doesn't want a sailboat. He wants food. He's not lucky, he's hungry. Lenny's not just dressed like a ragamuffin, he is one. Mars had no trouble figuring it out. Now you know Lucky Lenny's secret, Sal said. Lucky Lenny isn't lucky at all. He calls himself lucky because he's hoping that way to change his luck. Suddenly, all three children shivered as they saw a dark shadow hovering over them and the other kids, a darkness so big they were too scared to turn around. Just then, a man in a white shirt, black vest, and a long white apron came running out of the restaurant and started shouting at the kids, "Scram! You'll scare my customers away. How are they supposed to enjoy their meals with your hungry faces pressed against the glass? Get lost." "Come on, Lenny," Billy called him. "I know a house where we might get some food. It belongs to a rich old man we met when we first came to this city." The kids headed to the big house down the street. "Hurry," Anne yelled when she noticed that the shadow that had been hovering over them at the restaurant window was now following them and getting closer. And now my 5 minutes are up.
Oh God, you're leaving us hanging, are you, Kathleen?
Yeah, in the shadows.
Never sleep. Thank you for that. I wanted to ask about your anthology there, Don't Tell Family Secrets. Betsy Orland posted something about a reading, but no details. Can you help us out there or put something in that?
There's a launch on Zoom on the 5th of February. I just got an email about.
Okay, all right.
So I haven't seen that posting, but I just got that email.
Okay, and maybe you could just, I don't know.
I should put it in the chat, huh?
Yeah, if you can get a Zoom link for us, that would be even better. Yeah, so we can join in. We'd love to hear it. Great. Thank you so much. All right, we're moving right along here. And who's next? Oh, we've got a live in person here in Port Alberni. Julie Mahfood is going to read now. Where did she go? Julie, there. Oh, just stepped out for a minute. Here she comes. All right. Yeah, your timing is perfect. The floor is yours. We'll get you all dialed in there at the
Hi, everyone.
microphone.
Yeah.
And that one, you got to stay pretty close to that mic too.
So, Jennifer, I think I met you once in Montreal, maybe, but just wanted to mention my grandfather was also an indentured servant in the States. So,
Cool.
okay. Oh yeah, I can look there, not there. On Zoom ones, yeah.
Yes. Yes.
So I'm going to read 3 poems for you. 2 are short and 1 is not long, but things I took for granted. That my body was young, worked even while despised by its owner. Physical accidents, age, the next stage of life less than kind. That words spoken might save or as easily be one's demise. That love once gained would stay. Nights stay night and day, day. Instead, 10,000 tomorrows without you. That mine would always be the mind, body you wanted, and everything would be okay. That life could be the same without you, not feel like growing old too soon. Car accident, knife fight, being thrown by a horse. American thyroid is on hyperdrive, bigger than the state of Texas and just as narcissistic. People lose their shit, go ballistic in post offices, elementary schools, in the middle of a highway. SUVs, vans take pedestrians out, and at concerts, neither performers nor those waiting outside are safe. Inflamed gland has gone global, proper postal, to Manchester, Norway, tours the city of light, rides daily with Charlie. Each Americanized name, ideal, mushrooms into a form of self-worship, delusion, mental illness with no variant, save this. The whole world drinking mad puss piss, and the metabolic rate grows exponentially. In Ukraine, bombs bloom like peonies. Yeah. I meant to preface that by saying mad puss piss. I grew up in Jamaica, and mad puss piss, when you say he's drinking mad puss piss, it just means he's acting insane. Okay, last one. For someone else and his dad. I try to get you off track. Take your mind off your dad and mom. Your dad's cancer has spread so much, he's having trouble breathing. Still plays guitar with his brothers, cards. You call one game past the 8s. My family called those 8s crazy. I turn the talk to treats you can tempt your dad's appetite with, but this just makes things worse. You don't know what delectables either of your folks would choose. So I bring the conversation around to the book we're both reading. A mention of how we find some foods from other cultures questionable. Insects, puppies, pig's feet. You tell me about the cricket you had in California, or grasshopper. Say it tasted like chips, and you didn't feel the antennae or legs because the creature was so deep fried, there was only crunch. It was still a grasshopper, you said. I think how grief might be like this. Something creepy crawly that takes us by surprise. Doesn't feel quite as one might expect on the palate. It's still grief, perhaps beginning as a flying, leaping blur. Nothing we can catch or see whole until it's right up in us. By then, its parts are indiscernible, without the original texture, certainly not a thing we could break into bits or dissect. We talk about the underbelly of grief like it's an animal that can be described, much less vivisected, something one could dry out or turn to powder. But it has a mind all its own, takes shape slowly on the tongue, some brown flying thing that could be a leaf on the wind, a bit of torn fabric, grasshopper.
Beautiful.
Sorry. Suddenly, it's in your mouth whole and you're choking on it. It's all you can taste. Can't wash it down or spit it out. I want to spare you this next phase, but cannot. Forgive me. I am only a one-time grasshopper eater. Just when I thought the flavor would never break, it changed again.
Beautiful. Thank you. Awesome, Julie. Thank you so much. And thank you for making the trip over to join us live. It was really great to have you here. Hopefully you'll come back or at least keep joining us on Zoom. I can't help but comment. I mean, that grief poem really resonated with me right now. But also your second poem with, what is it, 39 mass shootings in America in so far this year already. And that's shootings with 4 more victims, right? So yeah, it's just unbelievable what's going on. But yeah, so anyway, thank you for the poetry. Gorgeous stuff. Keep doing it. All right, who we got up next? Oh, we've got in person here, Victoria Roscoe-Roumanis is going to share some of her work with us. I don't know if you brought poetry or prose tonight. It's always welcome, whatever it is that you bring. There we go.
This needs to be the paper. All right.
There we
Thank
are.
you. Is that okay?
That looks good. Sounds good to me.
Yeah. Well, first of all, I want to wish everybody a happy Robbie Burns Day.
Ah, yes. Robbie.
Hence,
Burns
I've got this
returning.
on. My kilt won't fit me anymore, so that's good enough. Good old Robbie Burns. And that's how I gained my love of poetry. My father read me bedtime stories of Robbie Burns. He had this wonderful book, which I now have. It's way over 100 and something years old now. But yeah, that's how I was first introduced to poetry, through Robbie Burns at bedtime. Yeah. So I've got 3 different pieces here. The first one is called Find Me. Okay. It's okay, you don't have to find me right now. Okay. Find me when the sun is shining brightly. Find me in refreshing rain. Walk with me on wild forest trails, enjoying the breeze as it scurries through the trees. Listen with me to the creek's tune as it cascades over rocks into pools. Hear with me the feathered sounds soaring in heaven's blue. Find me on the farm with horses, cattle, and bales of hay. Find me in the garden, helping the veggies grow. Stand with me beside the rail tracks, remembering sounds of yesteryear. Find me where there's music waiting to be sung, and find me in the rhythm of the dance. Find me when you're troubled and need a helping hand. Find me when my spirit needs to rise again. Find me with your tenderness. Find me with your soul. First one. The second is called The Dance Continues. Can't explain the things you feel. Can't explain what other people do. Beat move in time with the rhythm of life, in sync with the spirit, when without warning, discord causes one to stumble and struggle to maintain balance. You were tricked into believing you knew all the steps. The broken rhythm destroyed the flow. Darkness closes in. The soul becomes battered and bruised, while feet endeavor to find the way to stability. Once more in step, the dance continues. And the last one is called Home Fire Burning. I used to work in the seniors' homes, and I was inspired very often with things that I experienced to write something, which was just seemed to be there. One, as you know, one has to just write things. And this is Home Fires Burning, which inspired me to write this one. I entered her room. Her vibrant spirit was subdued by life's ending. Taking her hand, heavy eyelids opened. She sees me. I speak to her, tell her I love her. I ask if she would like me to stay a while. Yes. While sitting by her bedside, holding her hand, my eyes travel around the small room. So little in there to tell the story of her long life. Photographs of family, grandchildren, her own wedding photo, a few stuffed animals. I always loved her 8-inch tall mama and papa field mice. She loved to dance, sing, play games and joke. This wonderful lady was an enthusiastic participant in my activity programs. Her talent decorates her room now. Paper birds, drawings, crafted flowers, a small painted birdhouse. As I look, I am struck by the absence of material possessions. Being the pack rat that I am, it is difficult for me to consider this to be my future abode in later years. What is it all for, I wonder? What does anything we do matter? We come into this life with nothing and we leave it with nothing. But do we? Perhaps not. Material things, but surely there must be something. Experiences in this worldly life, don't they amount to something? Happenings that have shaped us into the person we are when we reach the last stage of life. Stories, beliefs, words of love and wisdom passed on to those we have encountered on our path. I truly believe in the existence of the spirit, spirits leaving the body to travel on to the next level. My thoughts take me to the seagulls at Harbour Quay, having fun with the wind, flying into it head on, free falling, gliding, drifting, wherever the air current takes them. It would be encouraging and wonderful to believe our spirit will soar on the breeze when we finally say goodbye to our physical bodies. No baggage to weigh us down. Years of living left behind as we are carried effortlessly on the promised peace. Onto the promised peace and love. Is our uniqueness lost in time? No, not totally lost. Our influence and traits will live on in our children, grandchildren, and their children, and children, and children, in our friends. They will continue to live out their lives with a spark of us within them to keep the home fire burning.
Thank you so much, Victoria. Wonderful poems. And it's interesting how synchronicities happen. And that last poem you read, especially, when I'm going to read later on, you'll see the connection, but it's spot on. Thank you for teeing it up. That's perfect. Okay. All right, we've got another local reader here, and it's Vicki Drybrough is going to do a 10-minute spotlight reading, one of LUMA'S spotlight readers. And Vicki, as most of you know, is a very talented local Port Alberni writer. She taught school here for many years. I was graced with her in my creative writing classrooms, and she's a fabulous writer, both prose and poetry. So whatever she puts her hand to, it always is magic.
Yeah, I think so. Thank you, Derek. This continues the story of
Yeah, no problem. Yeah. That's better. Yeah.
Better?
Yes. Thumbs up.
Great. Thank you. Thank you, Char. Oh. This story tonight continues the saga of young Holly, who is a girl who has been stripped of many things by her dominating father. And one of the things that she doesn't have or doesn't feel she has is a voice. And so this is just part of that story, and it's called The Importance of a Rock. Whenever I feel like nobody knows I'm alive, I go sit on my rock. It is out of sight of our house, but not so far that I will get in trouble for not saying where I was going. It is a boulder about as tall as the top of Herbie Jones's truck and as big around as Mr. Haddon's biggest haystack. It sits where the beach is smooth and flat. Having a rock of your own, one you can sit on, stand on, look down on the sea from, that is a very good thing, because a rock is a place to go to when you need to, like having your own room, only outside. The first time I climbed up my rock, I thought the top was so high it would never be underwater. So I lugged bits of driftwood and stones up there and braided grass together so I could have pretend dinners with pirates and princes and other important people. I left everything up there and climbed down when it was time to go home for supper. The next day I came back and my things were gone, even the stones, as if I had never been there. The trouble with my rock is that the tide comes in quickly because the beach is flat. 1 minute you're watching the tiny waves sweep over the dry beach with a soft hushing sound, and the next minute you look down and the water is up to your waist. I'm not really afraid because I know how to dog paddle. Perhaps the best thing about my rock is that it is the right shape to make waves crash and throw up spray. Nothing big, of course, but when you're sitting on top of it and the waves come at you, excuse me, they look deep and threatening until my rock smashes them into pieces and the spray flies up all around. I used to sit with my legs dangling over the edge, daring the waves to wash over them. One day, the waves from the passing CPR boat did exactly that, and they nearly swept me away. They crashed into my legs and dragged them against the rock, which scraped all the skin off. I sat in the middle of my rock and waited for the waves to stop before I climbed down and went home. When the wind came out of the west and the skies were blue and the sea was a deep blue with big waves, I would fill my pockets with white stones and clear sea glass from the pebble beaches nearby. Then I would pile them beside me on top of my rock as I sat weaving mats of dried grass and twigs. When the tide came in close enough, I would chant magic rhyming spells into the wind and throw a white stone as far as I could into the water. This was a gift to thank the sea for always being on my side, for always listening when I needed someone to talk to. Then I would call to the mermaids out in the sea and toss a piece of clear sea glass into the foam that formed on top of each wave, hoping one would appear. One afternoon in summer, I had a great idea. I would carry dry wood to the top of my rock and handfuls of dry grass and leaves. Then, after the sun went down, I would have a campfire. Nobody could say anything because I was surrounded by water and the fire couldn't go anywhere. When no one was looking, I took 4 wooden matches from the kitchen cupboard and put them in my pocket. Then I gathered an armful of tall brown grass mixed with dead arbutus leaves. I stuffed them under the wooden platform our neighbor used for his old upside-down rowboat. It took a lot longer to find enough dry wood to have a fire. I had to search in the bush as well as the area above high tide line and be sure to get very small pieces as well as larger pieces for when the fire got going. We called it second wood. The hardest part of all was stealing pieces of firewood from the woodshed without being seen. I waited behind the chicken run until my father was busy in the garden. Then I dashed into the creepy, spider-filled woodshed and grabbed 2 pieces of wood that would never see the inside of our stove. And I held them by the end so they hung down next to my legs. Peeking around the corner, I saw my father still busy with his back turned. So I ran back behind the chicken run, around the corner of the boathouse, and down onto the beach. I hid the wood behind a rock and went back to get 2 more. The tide seemed to take hours and hours to come in. I waited and waited, walking up and down on the beach, too excited to sit on my rock. I didn't have any marshmallows to roast on my fire, but I had taken 2 digestive cookies from the packet on the counter while my parents were having their tea. I would use 2 sticks to toast them over the flames. They would smell so delicious, the mermaids would come to taste them. After supper, I swam and played on the beach as my mother sat on her bench, watching boats fishing and checking out things with her binoculars. The water was dead calm, and the sun seemed to hang in the sky. I waited until the tide had gone out a fair way, and I couldn't stand it any longer. I'm going to get changed, I told my mother, and headed up the path to the house. It was almost dark. I changed quickly and shoved my old blue flashlight into the waist of my shorts. Careful not to touch the boards, I climbed through the rickety fence between our place and the neighbors and hurried across their property to the platform where the rowboat was. I could just see the fire makings in the faint light. It probably would have been all right if there was nobody else living nearby, or if it hadn't been fire season with all the summer houses bursting with people. But as it was, the smoke from my well-lit and perfectly tended fire drifted towards the shore, and pretty soon people could smell it, and some could see the flames in the darkness. They assumed a boat was on fire and rushed to help. I was sitting cross-legged with a blackened cookie in my hand when voices and lights appeared out of nowhere. Mr. Haddon and Jock Haddon and a man who was renting their cottage rowed as close as they could and shouted, "Is everything all right?" "I'm fine," I called back, and that's when everyone got excited. People came splashing up to my rock and demanded to know what I was doing. I thought it was pretty obvious, but I told them anyway. More people arrived. They were very upset, and someone scooped a can full of water and threw it on my fire. With a hiss and a poof, it went out, and everything was dark. "Holly?" I could hear my mother's voice from the shore. "I'm okay, Mom," I shouted into the darkness. Several flashlights homed in on me, and Jock Haddon's head appeared, and then his shoulders and arms. He reached for me. "Come on, lassie, I'll take you to your mom." I was mad because there was no danger, and they had interrupted my good time. "I'm fine," I said, "I can do it myself." My parents were angry, not because I had lit a fire. They knew I understood about fires, but because I had upset the neighbors. The next morning, I had to walk from door to door and apologize to them. Jock Haddon was the only one who apologized to me for ruining my good time. When I went back to my rock the next day, everything was gone except a black mark where the fire had been. But it was a mark that I could point to and say, "I was here. I did that." Thank you.
Awesome, Vicki. Thank you for that. Was wonderful. spellbinding story. I was right there with you. You left your mark here as well. All right, our next reader comes to us from Denman Island. We've got Polish performer Peter Paul Van Camp is going to share some more of his entertaining spoken word, I believe. Good evening, Peter. How are you?
Good evening, Derek, and everyone. It's always a pleasure to be here, and I want to report that my temperature is normal, my pulse regular, my blood pressure steady, and appetite strong. That may come into play with some of the things I'm going to be reading. I'd like to start off with a little jingle I wrote. It serves to introduce me as my portion here begins. It's called A Jingle for the Foreseeable Future. Well, see here, I'm a trifle old-fangled, at last report, short for a tall man, tall for a short. I arrive with a bell, a book, and candle, and look, truth to tell, I'm not that hard to handle, and that's the way I am. Well, that's just the way I am. You're just going to have to get used to it, that's all. That's the way I am. Furthermore, I've been at this romp since I wore knee pants, a little less pomp than circumstance. I stand before you now in trousers with a sack of sock dodgers, cast-offs, keepers, knee slappers, weepers, and rabble-rousers, and that's the way I am. That's just the way I am. You'll just have to get yourself used to it, that's all. That's the way I am. How's about it? Any better ideas? Well, I've got none. This is just what I do and the way it gets done. You know, it's all about the poetry, ladies and gents, and let no offense be taken, for there's none meant, because that's the way I am. Well, that's just the way I am. You're just going to have to get used to it, that's all. That's the way he is. It's like you knew me. That's the way I am. There we go. All right. That being said, as we say, I'd like to continue now with a piece I wrote about 55 years ago when I was in love. And the thing that happens when you're young and in love sometimes is that you might mistake your quarry. And this is an instance of that. It's an extended metaphor, I don't mind telling you, but it's not very long. I call it In a Grove of Oranges. I went today with love's resolve to pick the orange I have loved. I walked into the orchard, and it was just that sort of day. I knew the very words I'd say, and then well, I thought she might kiss me. I climbed up to a likely bough. I'm still sitting here, even now, although the moon has risen. You see, I reached to touch the orange I loved. She, from my startled fingers, moved and flew to another treetop. She is an oriole, not an orange. I might have sworn she was an orange. I thought I knew her better. Now, to my likely bough, I cling. Oh, but if I had wings, I'd use those things, and I'd fly to her this minute. Well, thank you. Thank you very much. Years pass as they do, and here I am, just about 70 years old, and I still enjoy climbing trees. And I'm beginning to think that one of these days my luck is going to run out. And so, as a way of saying farewell for now, just in case we never meet again, here's one that I just wrote this afternoon. It's called A Passing Thought. If I must fall to my grave from a tree, toppled by some guileless gust, oh, may I ask that it be a small tree, so very slight and weensy in size, that sorrowing friends, recalling my demise, cannot but guffaw in memory of me. That's the hope. That's the hope. Thank you very much, and I just
Thank you.
to listen to everybody.
Thank you so much, brother. That was awesome as always, and we are so glad that you are who you are. As you're,
Who am I then?
you are.
Oh, him.
I
Yes.
am.
Okay. There we go. Thanks very much. I'll be quiet now.
Thank you. That was wonderful. All right. It's Peter Paul Van Camp. And Victoria Roscoe-Roumanis has a question for you. Just hang on and I will parlay it across the Zoom channel.
Alrighty.
If she can. Oh, say it loud, he might hear you. Or go up to the mic. All right.
Your voice reminds me at Expo 86, I heard a man reading Round Bales of Hay. Would it happen to be you?
That's one of mine, yes.
Oh, wow. That's amazing. I love that poem, and my children loved it. We used to go around the house singing, round bales of hay, round bales of hay. Sometimes all I ever think, or whatever, however it goes, is round.
Sometimes the only words I say are round bales of hay.
That's it. That's it. Oh, you've got to read it the next time. I'd
Oh,
love
well.
to hear it again.
Remind me. Okay.
I can't believe it. I remember voices, but I don't remember faces. But hearing you read those poems, it's like, it's got to be him.
Yeah, there
Thank
we
you.
go.
We loved it.
You're going to live forever, Peter, because
It seems I am.
go on. See, it's to the generations now. There's no controlling it. Fabulous. All right. And we have another local reader here at Char's Landing, Lunchbucket, aka Bob, is going to come up, our friendly old curmudgeon, and share with us some of his poetry, I'm sure. And while he's on the way up, we want to say a big belated happy birthday to his partner in crime there, Joyce, who turned 80 just a few days ago. Yay, happy birthday, Joyce. Yeah, we better slide that microphone up an inch or two. Or you're going to turn into a hunchback by the time this is done. There. Char will look after you, Bob. And what's the date on that? May 13th. All right. So Peter Paul Van Camp and Mark, who's gonna Wonneck, who's gonna play for us a little bit later here, are going to be here live at Char's Landing. And if that didn't wet your whistle with what Peter Paul Van Camp just did, nothing will. Yeah. So I'm coming, and wait till you hear Mark, and I'm sure that'll definitely convince you to come, because we had him play earlier and it was fabulous. That looks good for Bob.
Okay,
Yes.
how's that?
We're good.
Okay. Jimmy Carter labeled U.S. as world's biggest warring nation. U.S. world bullies said that they would abide by UN Supreme Court ruling only if they agreed to it. Ending all wars will be mark of civilization and save next generation from collateral damage and cannon fodder fate. Can desperation entice zealots and generals to hasten God's rapture and trigger nuclear holocaust? Stalin changed borders to end Yukon-Pole animosities generated by Hitler in World War II. Could negotiation have averted Russia's Yuk invasion? Is U.S. aim to diminish Russia and China, and as long as no U.S. lives are lost, they're not concerned with Russian and Yuk cost? Does U.S. Army industry profit from Yuk Russian war game? Does U.S. church-state monopoly manufacture consent, just as America's biggest critic, Noam Chomsky, said? Was Hitler's propaganda minister Goebbels right, saying, repeat a lie often enough and it becomes the truth? Can the world unite and petition the 1% that control both U.S. parties and War Industry Corporation. Someone gave me this proposed petition. Whereas civilized society uses judicial system to settle our disputes, therefore we, the world's citizens, urge our politicians to submit all nations' disputes to UN Supreme Court judicial arbitration. Caution, will U.S. label this whistleblowing petition sedition? And will everyone signing it be on War Corporation CEO's hit list? Or does U.S. media monopoly consider us insignificant and will continue reporting only what they want the majority to know?
Thank you, Bob. Yes, when will we outgrow this craziness called war? I'd sign that petition in a heartbeat, Bob. Absolutely. All right, thank you for that. And now we're going to go to Mark Wonneck in Quallicum Beach, and he's going to share a little bit of music with us and his wonderful lyrics. Good evening, Mark. How are you?
Good evening. Can you hear me all right first? Haven't tested.
Yeah, it's a little echoey, but I can hear you okay.
Not sure what I can do about that.
Yeah.
Maybe if I turned it down. How about if I turn it down a bit? Is that a bit better? Is that okay? Still pretty echoey?
Yeah, it's a little blurry. I don't know. Char, can we do anything with that? Char's gonna see if she can tweak things a little on this end here.
Yeah, I'm not sure what I can do unless I get closer.
Hey, Mark, can you hear
hello.
Char? I'm going to ask you to turn the bass down a bit.
Turn the bass down.
Less bass?
Less bass down.
Zoom has a, do you have EQ?
I tell you what. I tell you what.
Close?
How about if I do this? I'll just take the mic away from my guitar, and that might help. Is that a bit better?
It's the guitar that's really boomy. The guitar is boom.
If I play underneath the microphone, it might work better.
Mark?
Yeah, hello. I can hear you.
Something's different from last time.
Something's different from
the guitar, the line out.
I tell you what.
Where it's going, the line out is really boomy. Boom, 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 boom.
I'm going to take out the line out. How about that?
Let's try that. We get it. That really works well. You can bring the mic down a little bit now.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
Thank you for
that. That's really good.
Paying attention to that. Then I appreciate that.
That's beautiful.
Very good. Okay, excellent. I should say about my friend Peter Paul Van Camp that when he says that that's the way he is, he really is. That's the way he is. And thank you for letting me be here with a guitar and everything. I feel like a bit of an intruder, but I'm so enjoying this. I love people are so talented. I picked her up on a lonely road where her broken car flashed Morse code. She smiled and said, you know, you saved my life. I didn't know then she was only half right. Oh, these lonesome roads. Oh, these lonesome roads. Fairy dust and wild rose. It turned out she was quite the conversationalist. And I gotta say, a kind of optimist. I learned about history and broken records, and how you can count on wool and every kind of weather. Oh, these lonesome roads. Oh, these lonesome roads. Out here the wind sure blows. I learned that shoes are an art form, and we're all made of electricity that you can really feel in a thunderstorm. Green beans are a miracle, but not so much parsnips. And she knew a song about sticky lips and giddy hips. Oh, these lonesome roads. Oh, these lonesome roads. On and on they go. Well, she had a lot more to say, but it would take 16 more verses. I dropped her at the garage, felt kind of empty, and what's worse is she smiled when she said goodbye, and her smile still makes me cry. Oh, these lonesome roads. Oh, these lonesome roads. Fairy dust and wild rose. There we go.
Beautiful.
Thank you. All my songs seem to be about 5 minutes long, it seems. So
That was lovely. Thank you so much, Mark.
very good.
Oh, we have a question from the audience. Julie. She's going to come up to the mic here.
I never wrote anything about bales of hay. I'm pretty sure. I just haven't. I don't think so.
So I think you have to answer for all the women here. I'm dying to know, did you marry her or did you ever never see her again?
I kind of got her, I think. Yeah. Mhm. Well, that's such a tricky question. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
That was beautiful. Thank you so much. And really appreciate the guitar licks too. You're very accomplished, man. It's
Thank you very
wonderful
much.
to listen to you. I'll look forward to seeing you live here at Char's in May.
That'll be fun. Thank you.
Beautiful. All right. Our next reader is live here in Port Alberni. My own son, Sean Hanebury, is going to share a little poetry with us. And yes, Sean, come on up to the mic. And for those of you who haven't heard Sean's poetry before, it's stream of consciousness poetry where you get to just let go of rational thought and just go with the cascade of language, and the threads sew themselves together on their own.
Yeah.
Take it away, Sean.
Okay, thank you. Low light, sad cart, no good, emptiest door, all that is good adulthood, leave me here for years and years, a strong grasp at last. What is happening, Commander Daydream, sad poem intelligence, what side of me runs home fast? Intending only the very good, I leap from my sleep star door, superior backdoor opener, emotional. Open arms, car alarms, crime, the old place from far before. I run the race. apron tied around my waist. I don't feel bad or good. Feelings surround my wounds as I create my stronger, higher awareness. Create my beautiful world star traveler 13. Where has the light gone? Who knows the ashes, the evening eyelashes? Who grasps past desperation's door? I don't live here like I used to. I try not to make a sound until finally I can talk to you, who knows my name, Starlight Traveler. I am not the same as I was. I dream of 16, remembering faces that reflect in me like a mirror. I saw yours then with bright cheeks, with tomorrow's story strong in your stomach, that would like to eat but has lost the path. Daisy chain inferno, fire lift me up high to the apple pie heaven highway. Strawberry desperation, adventure. The summer sun paints a story on everyone. I curl up in the strong emotional waves. What tomorrow saves. You are a lighthouse that shines your story onto me. Let your story shine with the divine divider yesterday. I am okay here where I stay. Promise to me only, keep from being lonesome, lonely. My heart reflector, my soul surrender, my resurrector, my spending splendor, my goal tender, my fender bender, that wakes me up in the hospital. How couldn't it be? Why wasn't it me? Race runner, last place, never wins the race, strawberry let down. I apologize with kings and queens. Lie detector chaos, super everything split. All that can remind me, my heart is hot, not up to it. My soul full of chaos. I am a race runner with my heart beating. The things I have lost that I keep repeating. Sadness, excess, soul, who are you in developing emotion? I wait until the bell rings where I can be alone once again. Lighthouse, beacon of hope, truth, the answer in my mind, it is left behind. Met me in sorry, where my soul pulled. Tasting backbone in the purple layered evening red. The root of this story, words inside my mind. Rise up to howling wolf purity. Leave me in the legs walking, meet me in my oval dream of tomorrow. Rising empathy, don't fall asleep in me. My daydream believer, my upset receiver. Where do you walk? In the shoes on my feet, my widow's peak in mistake. Let me feel what is real when the whistle blows. There was no one else to know. Hopping sad trains to nowhere, meet me in the tired feet that have been walking for hours. Meet me in the hidden light that relates magic colors in the dull days, rotting waves. There is an emptiness I have not known before. Shut door, junk drawer, dream expectation, corridor, across the road. This is my heavy load. This is the top of my burden. I try to do chores of the heart, being nice in my blanket. I feel you through the plastic, fantastic. I feel you through the full moon when things change unexpectedly. When I don't know your name, let me spin like a ceiling fan. Studier studying, honking horns, car alarm, heart upset. Be my net, be my beauty pageant winner. Be the old scold, be my sinner. My sweet, clueless beginner, I would like what you have. A haircut that opens the door to don't exist. Temptation don't grab me. Emancipation cover me with light. Thank you.
Thank you, Sean. Don't tell your brother, but you're my favorite son. Okay. I love that line. You're a lighthouse that shines its stories. Yeah, it's beautiful. Yeah, some fabulous lines in there. Awesome. All right, now we're going to go all the way to Germany, and we've got Leslie is waiting there. Omohundro-Bronczkowski. Did I say that right? Am I close?
Yes.
Good. All right. Middle of the night there. We're so glad you stayed up and stayed with us and didn't fall asleep or anything. You're going to share some poetry with us?
Yeah, very short. It's short.
Oh.
And this was, again, part of our Corona project here with my writing group. And we were sent a photo every month. And this was a photo of a real idyllic scene of a lighthouse on a river, speaking of lighthouses, and a red sky, and everything looks so peaceful. And I thought everyone's going to write just, something really beautiful about how idyllic everything is. And then I was just thinking, can a country block out its past with an idyllic landscape today? It just sort of went through my mind, and I thought, what about inherited trauma? Doesn't that come through despite the landscape? So anyhow, this is the poem I wrote about that, and it's called River Landscapes. Awakened to a new day, the echo of clanking chains anchored in my thoughts, too heavy to shake off, a past that remains present, the bloodhounds close enough to hear them panting. Where is the riverbank that must be leapt to find freedom from such inherited bondage, the light in this eternal shadow? Is this the burden we carried even across the seas, knowing then as now that it was never ours to bear, except as witness to unspeakable deeds of yours that glimmer yet within us, waiting to be passed down? I watch now the colors of the sun amidst the dark clouds and the sound of water as the day begins. There has always been a lighthouse to show us the way in the storm. The bloodhounds have long since gone to sleep.
Wow.
That was it.
Wow. Beautiful. Beautiful. Thank you so much for staying up to share that with us. That was very powerful. Yes, beautiful. All right, we're going to move on to Diana Manole. Is that the correct way to pronounce your last name? Coming to us from Toronto.
Yes.
And you're going to share some poetry with us, I believe.
Yes, thank you so much for having me here, and I'm very happy I logged in so that I can listen to all the beautiful readings tonight. I would like to share, I hope they are bittersweet, not very sad. I would like to share some of my recent poems about my mother. It's a series, it's called Mom's Cravings, and it's dedicated with love to all seniors who struggle with senile dementia. And I will read two poems. Mom talks in Romanian as loud and as clear as she can, and doesn't understand why all doctors and nurses nod their heads at her in silence. Mulțumesc că aveți grijă de mine, she says. It's the first COVID year we are all masked up. I can't tell if the night nurse is smiling or upset. I apologize. Don't worry, old people have good days and bad days. I was once bitten by a patient, she laughs. I am happy Mom doesn't bite, not yet. She pierces me with her eyes, frustrated. I understand the nurse, but she doesn't. Mom stutters. My name is, which suddenly turns into a drawn-out squawk, a shrill, a whistle. Mom whistles the blue Danube. The nurse lifts her yellow plastic gown up to her knees, silly waltzing with the IV pole. The heart monitor beeps in Strauss's rhythm. The neon lights turn into fireworks. Mom claps. A bird that broke free from her language cage. And the second one, if I may.
Absolutely.
Mom, thank you. Mom loves red. She doesn't wear it. She venerates it. She, sorry. Apologies. I'll start again. Mom loves red. She doesn't wear it. She venerates it. She fishes out the tomato slices from each salad and places them on lace coasters. She saves the cherries in a clear plastic bag, zips it and shakes it, a made-up tambourine. The red sings, she says, and moves her shoulders in a chair dance. Mom asks for apple at each meal, but never eats them. She cuts out the peels and sews them together with silk thread. A necklace. She calls me, puts the apple peels around my neck. Red will protect you of envy and the walk, she winks. When we have watermelon, she carves its flesh with her plastic knife. This is you, but prettier, she says, pointing at a juicy lump with seeds for eyes, a piece of rind for a mouth, and a pointy nose. This is your sister when she wore pigtails. This is Dad, the way I met her over 60 years ago. And this? Who's this, she wonders, gazing at her fourth watermelon sculpture, not recognizing herself. Mom does it off, smiling. A housebound Michelangelo, dreaming of all those who come to admire her red art show. Thank you.
Beautiful. Thank you, Diana. Thank you so much for sharing those. Very, very moving. And I'd love to hear more of that series. So I hope you'll come back and join us next month and share some more. It's gorgeous.
Thank you so much.
And it's a perfect setup for what I'm going to read here, because I think, Karl, remind me, have we finished all the open micers? I don't think I have any more on my list. All right. I guess I'm up, so I'm going to jump up to the podium here and share a little piece of prose with you. I look good. Mike's good. Yeah. Everybody can hear me okay. There we are. Yeah. I'm in the range. I'm in the zone. Okay. So for those of you who are with us for our Christmas Electric Mermaid, and I read The Mistress of Christmas. Unfortunately, The Mistress of Christmas has been dismissed. She passed on the 7th of January. And we were a mix of relief and grief because she was in a fair amount of pain towards the end. And so being free of that is always a good thing. But we had lots of time to talk with her before she left, and said, Jocelyn, my wife, kept saying to her, when you get to the other side, you got to let us know, give us some signs that you're still around. And so this is what happened. It's called Parting Gifts. My mother-in-law was a connoisseur of thrift store kitsch, of dollar store deals and garage sale giveaways. Trinket by trinket, she filled our house with heavenly treasure, a cast iron crow, a glass globe that filled with snow when you shook it, 2 lava lamps, 4 salt lamps, an 8-foot wooden giraffe. Anything with spirals or sparkles, boxes upon boxes, and cloth grocery bags by the bundle. I used to joke that we should let people know when she was close to the end of her life so they could sell their shares in the dollar store before they tanked. In her last days, she hoarded only her breaths, hung in to wring the magic out of one more gaudy Christmas, tapped on a Tibetan bowl on New Year's Eve, a far cry from her usual clanging of pots on the front porch at the stroke of midnight, then slipped out of her body a week later when no one was looking. In the end, her collecting was only surpassed by the generosity of her giving, a generosity that extended beyond her death. The night after she passed, she visited my son in a dream. He said she stood by our dining room table looking 15 years younger and kept repeating excitedly, "I'm still here, I'm still here," as if she still couldn't believe the many times we told her she was not about to die so much as be reborn. The day we drove to the crematorium to pick up her remains, sun broke through the weeks of gray scuzz and fog, and a rainbow spanned the valley she loved so much. As we drove home with her box of ashes in a fresh cloth bag she would have approved of, I thought how she would have loved that drive around Cameron Lake, the jade green of the water, sun highlighting the hillside across the lake, the lack of traffic, until just before Cathedral Grove, where a slow-moving truck forced us down to 50 clicks. In no time, out of nowhere, a line of cars and trucks appeared and backed up behind us, until we formed a synchronized unit, winding somberly around the lake and into the towering stand of old growth. "I feel like we're in a funeral procession," I said. "Me too," said my wife, and look at the phone number on the back of that truck." I looked ahead to where she was pointing and read in big block text, 1-800-GOT-JUNK. As we both started laughing, I could feel my mother-in-law riding with us, not necessarily in the car, but in the ether around us, in that eternal moment where everything is taking place all at once. And she was laughing like hell. And everyone there with her was laughing too, her parents and her grandparents, all our ancestors in heaven, laughing at the prank they engineered with love to buoy us through this sad day. Laughing at the unwitting people in our flash mob funeral cortege. Laughing at our all too human attachment to junk. From the shiny bits and baubles we buy down to the meat suits we mistake for our far more beautiful selves. Down to the cardboard box of ashes my wife cradled on her lap. Ashes we have transferred to a clay urn until the right summer day when we can gather what's left of the family, share some memories and laughter, and then scatter them to the wind and the sea. Thank you. And as a postscript, I have to add, today we went to Nanaimo, and as we came onto Cameron Lake, out of the fog and the drizzle, the sun broke out and it was beautiful. And we looked, and all of a sudden I'm going slower, and here's a garbage truck in front of us. Slowed us down all the way around. They're like, people backed up. I said, "Okay, we got it. Thank you. Anyway, thank you all for coming to Electric Mermaid again. It's been an awesome evening, and I just want to say what a again amazing diversity of readers we had, but so many highlights. And of course, Jennifer, with your feature read, that was the highlight, but there were so many other little peaks along the way. So big thank you to Char here at Char's Landing for making this happen, hosting us, keeping the electronics cooking along, and solving the sound issues even. She's a whiz, just amazing. And reminder, if you have a little generosity in your spirit to e-transfer there, it's in the chat for the email address. Thank you again to Karl for being our moderator, keeping us on track. Thank you to all our readers, especially to Jennifer, of course, but to everyone who shared some of their private thoughts, poetry, poems, prose, whatever it was that came. It was all heard, appreciated, and we look forward to more next month. So the last Wednesday of February, we will be back here again doing it. And for those of you out there who aren't too far away, please come join us live here at Char's. Otherwise, we love having you here on Zoom too.
Thank you,
it's
Derek.
a great way to go. Take care, all.
And thank you, Derek.
My pleasure. As always, a lot of fun.
And our next feature reader is in the chat there. It's a local person from Port Alberni, Judith Hutchinson. And Peter, I was going to say, you remind me of a guy named Al Simmons. You act like him and talk like him. It's amazing.
All right. Yes. So we look forward to hearing Judith Hutchison next month. And yes, we're looking for more features. So if anybody's interested in doing a feature for 15, 20 minutes or so, and a little bit of Q&A or whatever afterwards, Peter Paul Van Camp maybe might be interested in doing March. Would be wonderful to have him here. Another primer for his live performance here, but we're not twisting any arms. Peter Paul Van Camp, maybe, I don't know. But anyway, if anybody wants to, they can just stick around afterwards, and we won't sign off on the Zoom right away and chat to us, or you can always drop an email to Karl at electricmermaidreads@gmail.com. Did I get that right, Karl? Yes, I did. God, I'm getting good in my old.
We're
not muted. No, we're not.
All right.
Don't say hi.
Take care, everybody, and we'll see you next month.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Bye, Leslie. Hi.
Keep writing.
Yeah.
To me.
Oh, well, good for you to be this long. Great stamina. Wow. Oh.
Oops.
Jennifer, thank you so much. That was amazing.
It was wonderful.
Yes, really.
Okay.
All right, we all leaving. We're all going to go to sleep.
Yes.
Leslie, you and Jennifer are in different time zones.
Yes. Okay, I'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you.